Welcome to this episode of Inside PTI. Today we're going to spend a little bit of time talking about different closing systems on the planter. Now, there's tons of choices as we think of closing systems for the planter. Lots of different aftermarket closing systems out there, closing wheels that you can put on a planter. Lots of choices for a grower. But when you really think about a closing system, what is it supposed to do? Here at the PTI farm, we ask two things for a closing system. Number one, we're going to create that true V from our openers. That's when we're going to put our seed right in the middle of that true V. A closing system needs to come in and blow those sidewalls out, those smear lines that those openers are creating, especially if we're planting into maybe a little bit wetter conditions than what we would like. That's going to be a potential compaction layer. And those closing wheels need to come in, lift and fracture, and blow those soil density layers out. The second thing we're going to ask a closing system to do for us is remove the air pocket. If we don't have good seed to soil contact, the seed won't be able to imbibe water and it won't be able to emerge and come to the soil surface quickly. And that could potentially be a late emerger. So that's what we're expecting with different, with our closing systems. And we know there's different types of wheels and they kind of react differently in the field. So our job at PTI is to test different systems and see how they actually work in the field. And the best way I can do it here at PTI is to put them in different environments. So we test different closing wheels and I'll put them in different tillage systems here at PTI. Now, what closing wheels are we testing? I guess I keep it simple with closing systems, and I know there's a lot. We mentioned that earlier, a lot of systems you can put on a planter. I keep it simple. The closing wheels I'm testing are based off of if they're smooth, if they're light, if they're heavy, if they have spikes, if they have plastic spikes, things like that. That's why I'm using them to show the differences in how they work. Now, the system you see on the screen right now, this is a grower that had just a typical rubber wheel, and he added it with a Yetter poly twister. The Yetter poly twister is a very popular plastic notch wheel that's in the marketplace right now. But using those two in tandem is our first system. Second, we remove the rubber completely and it's all Yetter poly twisters, a dual system. Third, we're going to bring in the heavy wheels. This is a Martin dual dimple. One of these wheels weigh 35 pounds. Times two, you got a 70-pound tail. So how do we set this system since it's heavier compared to these other lightweight plastic wheels? That's why we introduce these heavy wheels. Lastly, we're bringing in the fingers, the longer fingers. This is a Yetter cast finger. A lot of growers worry about these long fingers and being too aggressive because they can get into the furrow and start moving seed around a little bit. But they can do a pretty good job of lifting and fracturing. All of these systems that I just showed you, we're comparing to FurrowForce, our new two-stage automatic closing system. And this is an interesting closing system. We've used this for a couple years now at PTI, and it has done a very good job of addressing the lifting and fracturing with the first stage of this closing system. And then the second stage is designed to help us remove the air pocket. But a lot of these closing systems that are together in a single stage, they have a hard time doing both of those things at the same time. It's usually one or the other, not both. With FurrowForce, we have two separate stages. One just to lift and fracture the sidewalls, and then the second stage just to remove the air pocket. So I'm putting all of these closing systems into different tillage environments. Number one, we've got conventional tillage, a popular tillage program for many. We're coming in with a disc ripper in the fall, then we come in with a soil finisher and work it down once, and then we plant it. And FurrowForce did, in fact, beat the rest of the closing systems, but it wasn't by very much. We didn't have a huge spread here. Dual Yetter twisters were within 0.8 bushel per acre, very, very close. The point I'm trying to make with conventional tillage is this was fairly easy to close. Okay, a conventional system, we're working that ground, it's fluffy, it's mellow, pretty easy to close the trench, and we were planting in dry conditions as well. Let's transition to a different tillage program. How about strip till? This actually is my preferred method of tillage at the PTI farm. Look at the yield response of FurrowForce, that two-stage automated closing system compared to the other wheels. We're looking at 2.3 bushel to 5 bushel yielded advancements for FurrowForce. FurrowForce never got beat, giving us really good performance in a strip till environment. Vertical till, now we start getting into some more reduced tillage. So this isn't no-till, this is vertical till. We're bringing a sunflower vertical tillage tool in here, lightly scratching, working that residue in the fall, and then we plant into this in the spring. This is called vertical tillage. And now we start to see the spread get a little wider because now we're getting into some tougher planting seedbed conditions. And this is where we typically see FurrowForce take control and really excel. But in vertical till, you're seeing some of these systems, 2.1 to 5.4 bushel advantages for FurrowForce compared to these other single stage non-sensing units. Lastly, how about no-till? We remove the tillage completely. And I guess this is one that I take to heart a lot because I grew up as a kid with Dad and Grandpa showing me how to do tillage. We loved the smell of freshly worked soil, and I was a tillage guy. And now I'm coming in, it's a PTI farm, and we're trying to put no-till systems in, and I have to forget about everything I learned about tillage. And using a system like FurrowForce has helped me a lot in no-till. Look at some of these yield advances. Again, walking into a straight no-till system, FurrowForce winning up to 15.2 bushel per acre. That's where FurrowForce will excel in these tougher to close environments. If you just look at average yield over all of the tillage programs, all of the closing systems, FurrowForce won by an average of 5.66 bushel per acre. Now, it's important to look at economics here. Take that yield times the price of corn, and that's over $21 an acre advantage for a two-stage closing system that senses, that changes, that can adjust to the seedbed environment that we have. That's what we're looking for with FurrowForce, and we're seeing some pretty nice economic returns with this closing system. The average win rate for FurrowForce in no-till was 11.44 bushels compared to all these other closing systems. That's a pretty high number. Look how the number decreases. We get to vertical till, it goes to 4.1, strip till 4.35, and conventional 2.74. The tougher the environment, FurrowForce works better. Today's Inside PTI agronomy tip of the day is closing the furrow is important, and when we get it incorrect, we simply lose yield. Traditional closing systems in the past have been difficult to set correctly. They're static, they're fixed settings, and they don't offer the ability to change or react to varying seedbed conditions. FurrowForce, it's a two-stage closing system, a system that can measure and tell us if we need to change. If we have it wrong in this spot, we can fix it. We can do it manually or we can do it automatically. Lastly, FurrowForce, it works the best in tough conditions. That's where we need it to work well, and what we've seen at PTI, that's when this system excels. Well, that's all the time we have for today's episode of Inside PTI. If you have any questions about FurrowForce and the closing systems that we're working on here at the PTI farm, reach out to any Precision Planting Premier dealer. They'd love to talk with you about these agronomics, or you can send an email to InsidePTI@precisionplanting.com. We will see you on the next episode of Inside PTI. Thanks for watching.